A very big welcome and hello if you've just joined us today, and those of you who have been with us since either yesterday or this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us. We hope to round up this event by coming full circle with the whole storytelling theme with our next presenter, Sandra Khoo. Okay, before we get to her, now just a few ground rules again, the reminders. If you have any questions at all for our presenter, Sandra Khoo, please type it in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, not in the chat box. Our earlier panelist, Mr. Eugene Fu, will be referring them to the speaker when he joins us at the end of her presentation. Okay, all right. So now let's get to know a little bit about Sandra. Again, we go back quite a ways, okay? Way back, even longer than I've known Eugene. Okay, who will be helping us moderate the Q&A session, right, Eugene? So at least 20 years or not more, right? So currently, Sandra is living in France, but she's still working remotely from France as a creative director for Giggle Garage Studio. Some of you might know this. It's a Malaysian animation company that's based in Cyberjaya, right? Prior to scooting off overseas, Sandra has already enjoyed quite an impressive career of about 20 years here in the Malaysian animation and also gaming industry. And she has earned herself multiple accolades by working on various award-winning projects. Right between her day job, Sandra is also a frequent multitasker. Her day is really jam-packed with juggling extra gigs as a freelance artist, French student, art teacher, part-time gardener, and farmer in France. And amidst all of that and her full-time job, and cooking for her family, she still constantly has time to still refine her creative prowess, always practicing more and more expertise in the arts of games design, comic illustrations, and also 2D and 3D animation, right? Okay, through her personal artworks, her visual travel journals, her Facebook page, which is more like a visual blog called A Malaysian Artist Abroad, she hopes to inspire all of you in the joy of artful living by sharing with you snippets of her own life and journey. Right, so today she will be in casual conversation with us as she takes all of us on her own personal journey of her life as a visual storyteller so far. Right, so everyone, here's Sandra Khoo. Sandra, shall we
Oh,
begin?
hi everyone. Um, uh,
Hi.
is our PowerPoint on?
No, I shall share screen right now. Hang on.
Okay.
Hi Sandra, nice to see you again.
Hi Eugene. Hi everyone.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining. I just want to say thank you to Utah for inviting me to this event. And I just want to apologize in advance if I sound clunky because I'm a bundle of nerves right now. So yeah, let's begin.
You'll be
Don't
fine.
worry about it, Sandra. You've got this, okay? Right.
Yeah, thank
So
you so much.
take it away, Sandra. I'm following your cue, right?
All right,
Okay.
so let's go on to where I started. Firstly, as Joe has mentioned before, I used to work in Giggle Garage back in Malaysia, but now I've shifted my whole life here in France. And you can see here, this is what studio life was for me and all my colleagues. And then now I'm in this new environment. He, yes, this one. Um, I get I get to work in the countryside at a new desk, and it's totally different from what I'm used to back home. A, a good chunk of my life in the city, but now it's totally different. And if we move back to the previous image, Joe, I it hasn't changed the previous image. Yeah, it hasn't changed because this is what I am now here as well. I still have a bunch of stuff that I carry with me in my bag, even though I don't move. Um, as a as a quirky and introverted person, I find these are my comfort sources when I do my work at any place I go. So I'm never without any of these items. And just to touch on the theme, yeah, it's about storytelling. And this is how I like to show my side of the story through my drawings. So you will be seeing a bunch of sketches as we move along into the panel, the top. And growing up with my twin Deborah, very, very young at the early stage, we would interact by playing together and drawing. So this kind of instilled that attitude in us that we, even though we don't mix around with a lot of people, we had each other. So in this way, we would draw and seclude ourselves in our bedroom and just create and conjure stories by ourselves, whether or not we rip up our textbooks, or exercise books. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. We we not only settle for the typical dress ups and playing with dolls, but we want to do more. That's why we would sit down together and create our own characters in our own worlds and even do the voiceovers. That's what we find amusing. We would, in our falsetto tone, we would just make up stories, and we would spend about an hour or two. Time will fly when we're doing this. And then to the next one, I would move on quite fast. So Joe can please slow me down if I need to be.
Yeah,
So
no problem, no problem.
uh-huh.
Keeping good pace.
when I when I first started out after graduation, I got the opportunity to work as a storyboard artist for the movie Palo. Although I think it was uncredited, it was still the whole chunk of the movie that I had to board and go to Finas and just draft out from the script itself before I had the opportunity to go into animation finally, where I would meet my friends or ex-classmates and we would form this solid group called Mars and Uranus. And we'd end up collaborating from years to come from there. Nat and Tabo was a very uh, educational moment of my life because from here, this is where I learned from the ground up to work as a team, and we produce things from zero. I thought I would be a 2D animator in this line from the get-go, but it turned out that I found that my talent would be in pre-production, whereby I would be relied upon to create stories from zero and then build up the artworks from there and even do touch-ups later on. Thankfully, sometimes they allowed me to do some 2D animation from time to time whenever there's a filler needed. But I found that I was the sole bulk of the pre-production department. In fact, I was doing it solely by myself. No one else was helping me. So yeah, that was how I learned from where I need to be in the future. It was really good work because I think I churned out at least 3 or 4 episodes a month by myself, including all the artwork needed and concepts. So moving on, that led to the next phase of my career, which was Saladin. At the beginning stage, it was meant to be a animated feature, but uh, ever since Al Jazeera Children's Channel came aboard, it went through a total revamp and it was made into a TV series. And they decided not to go full on historically accurate with as per the animated feature. They decided to go to that part of his life, was when he was a teenager, and what would the adventures he would face and encounter that would lead him to the legend he will be. So I started out as a character designer there. And this is where I learned to really multitask because being one of the only main character designers there, I was required to design not only the main characters, but also the sites and animals and so forth. And bearing in mind, since this is a collaboration with International Circle, we needed to be as accurate with our details as possible. So from there, I I did have a background that I love history and geography and all the things that you need when dealing with periodic films. So thankfully, all that went very well and smoothly for me. And it took about 5 years before I moved on to other projects and opportunities. But in the meantime, working on Saladin, I was also given the opportunity to work on Ribbit, the animated feature. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with it because I think it was pretty low key at that time. But I'm thankful that it got to be voiced by the likes of Tim Curry and Sean Astin. And I just did the character designs for this. It was a nice breath of fresh air moving from a periodic historical product to something that deals with wildlife and nature, which was something I grew up loving. I love to draw lots of animals, starting from dogs and kids. I think you remember this, Eugene.
We
When
we all remember this, Sandra. You're like
yeah,
famous in school for that. Yeah,
no, yeah, and I think at that time also I was one of the few who focused more on a Western style rather than anime Japanese style manga.
true,
So
true.
that's why I could tackle some of these projects head on. So not long after that, after wrapping all of these projects up, I also had the opportunity to touch on stuff not related to 3D animation, but also I'm thankful to say puppetry and some game designs. So this was a really brief stint. I just create a bunch of drawings to be made into puppets. And then not long after, I was given the opportunity to work on designs for a game company and just a heads up that these are things that I could find online. So not necessarily mean that I did this work, but I did contribute to some of the elements and asset making. But yeah, these I created for game icons and short skits and so forth. So I think we can move on to the next page. Yeah, this one, after finishing that since in gaming, I did a lot of storyboarding before I got to Giggle Garage where I am now. But this one was uh, freelance work for a Hong Kong-based studio, Studio Agogo, and I got to work on some of the episodes for this plushy TV series. It's available on YouTube now. You can check it out, and a few other stuff. And yeah, all of this was a culmination of my training before getting into my full-time gig. So all this prior to that was on contractual basis. I was never in a full-time job per se. Saladin, in that context, it was still a contractual basis, but I was required to come to the studio to do the work, of course. But this one was really my real first full-time job. In that sense, I really need to learn how to work with a team full on. And you can see here, these are some of the projects that I've been working on from the get-go, starting with the Boing the Play Ranger, and then as a as an assistant director. I started out as a character designer for Giggle Garage working on Origanimals, but I think at that time I was working really close with the production crew, and they discovered that I could help analyze a scene and draft out what needs to be done on boards to help the animators. So that gave me the opportunity to become a director per se. So being thrown into the gauntlet without much training and time to ingest the role, I went full on assistant director from I think episode 5 onwards for the full production of Origanimals. And from there, it led on to more opportunities to work on bigger projects with foreign studios and companies. For example, Kazoops was one, which was a collaboration with Australia. And now it's available on Netflix. You can check it out. And that one was pretty tough because it was the first time I got to work on a project that requires both 3D and 2D elements combined in the show. So we had to look at two different departments working alongside concurrently. And then at the same time, moving on, I had the opportunity to be assistant director and work on Dr. Panda season 1. We're now into season 2, by the way, and we're halfway wrapping that up. But you can see all of these should be available online. And the final project prior to Dr. Panda season 1 was Space Nova, where I was definitely working as co-director with Australia. That one has just recently wrapped up, thankfully. And while overseeing the second season of Dr. Panda, we're working on other small projects as we speak. So, okay, that's the bulk of my background. I'm sorry it took a little while, but that's just show what I'm doing as a day job. But now on to the task of what I do for fun, which is at the same time managing all of that. I've been sketching a lot. And initially we started out participating in this worldwide collaboration called Sketch Crawl. And I tried to make time to host the team from KL, and we go out sketching. So this was the start of how I discovered perhaps sketch journaling would be something fun, and I could interact with people during the weekends, and then find that this is a very nice part of storytelling that I didn't think is a thing at that time. But I noticed that people are amused to see what's in your sketchbook and what do you see through your eyes and how you interpret that into the drawings. So I've been organizing this event for a couple of years before, of course, the busy schedule took its toll, and then I phased out from that. But phasing out doesn't mean I stop, because whenever time permits, I would still draw and continue that into my travels or wherever I go, or whatever I can do in between. Let's say if I were to have lunch, I could still draw and put something on paper, and people still find that amusing to read and look into. For example, here's an image of my trip to Japan, which was a unique opportunity because this one was drawn during Saladin when we were more or less wrapped up and it was going full circuit for the festivals. So I was given the opportunity to travel to Tokyo, and in between that, I would sketch my experiences and what happened during the trip. And I find it was really a good souvenir for me that I could note things down and not forget. And whenever I travel with friends, for example, here's a trip we did to Borneo and to Cambodia. And this one was a trip I took. The next one would be a trip to Penang, where I meet up with my students whom I teach on a part-time basis. And yeah, as you can see, those drawings never stop. This one was done in France. I did some back and forth trips before deciding to settle here. So being in France, there was just so much to take in and so little time. I just did whenever time permits for me to rest, I would just draw. And you would notice whenever there's time to relax, I tend to put more colors into my drawings. If not, I would just doodle black and white and just scan it. It's just whatever time permits.
Do you have a preference,
So
Sandra? Black and white or color? Do you have a preference?
I would honestly always start black and white because I want to make sure that I get to hone in on that skill and do it well before moving on to colors, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, being myself, I'm never satisfied. So I don't think there's an end date to when I will stop and then move on to the next phase. Yeah. So yeah, so I just want to share with you all the different instances whereby I try to grow as an artist, and even like this one, memories from home that I will always treasure because I've moved from my old house in PJ to an apartment. And then now that I'm here looking back at these sketches, I just get nostalgic all the time because it's treasured memories that I will never forget because it's all now available for me in my sketchbooks. So,
And previously, during a casual conversation, you were talking
mhm,
about how different it was to actually document memories, like in terms of shooting
mhm.
pictures, and what
Yeah,
you do, which is actually not just shooting
yeah,
pictures, but you're actually interpreting the scene before putting it down on paper. So you already interacted with your own memory beforehand.
yeah. Bearing in mind, I was not catching up with the digital age at that time. I didn't have a handphone where you can just snap pictures on the go. So I would have a sketchbook or a sketch pad with me, and I would note down what I see and what I experience. And to me, this is a lot better in terms of what I want to say because a photograph can, like we talked about, a photograph can only say so much, and it's up to the person who sees it to interpret it as it is. But whereas if I were to show you a drawing, it's me. It's totally all on me, and you get it because I'm able to um, put in details in words and you can see what goes on in my thought process when I drew this on paper and how I see it as a storyteller. So yeah, this is a nice instance where I'm also able to use my mother tongue, Hokkien, and put it on paper. So I will not forget my Hokkien tongue when I travel around, and especially when I'm here now learning a new language. And yeah, that's also a nice little snippet of me in a typical scene with my mother doing a checkup at the hospital. And you know how boring it is in the waiting room, but I'm still able to find amusement from that in between waiting for the doctor.
Well, that's the storyteller for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. It never stops. I mean, I find amusement in a lot of things I experience and see. And I just wish at times I didn't forget my sketch pad and just write it down so I can try and make time to draw it later. So these are also instances where I would also use sketching and doodling on my sketch journal to note my ideas for future projects. And these ones, for instance, are meant for a graphic novel, which should be should, is and still a process that I'm doing now while I'm here working. It's just that all this takes time and patience and love, which I still need to learn how to find a balance for in between my day job and chores, and also studying while I'm here. But this gives me the opportunity to study and research and find a nice way to flesh out the story and the world. Also, you can see I never stopped sketching. This is also a moment in my life when I was shifting house and we were in a rented room. And I basically just propped up a cardboard box and just put my sketches on that makeshift box and just start drawing and doing the work that I need to do and just keep on practicing as I move along. And yeah, and while in the midst of that, bear in mind, I still collaborate with my team, Mars and Uranus, my group of friends, which thankfully I'm still close to, and we're still solid up to this date. But we used to annually participate in comic conventions locally, and we'd always try to make time to print out anthologies and merchandise to participate in those annual events. Some of us are still quite active in that circuit, but unfortunately, I've taken myself out of the equation moving here. But also because we started from the get-go earlier when comic convention was still a new thing and the crowds weren't as big as they are now. My goodness, how many thousands of people. And I just find that overwhelming being an introvert myself, being caught in the midst of such a mishmash of people. I do get very intimidated, I have to say, even being here now
Don't worry, you're among
online.
friends and fans, Sandra. You've got
Yeah,
tons of fans out there.
thank you. And on top of that, lately I find myself participating in the trend of Inktober. So that really pushed me to keep on drawing, even though time was very precious. And I still force myself to study and draw and look into details and research. And here's a glimpse of some of my sketches that I really find really rewarding because it's like making souvenirs for myself again, and
Sorry,
something
Sandra,
that I
to,
can.
to interrupt. This bit here, this like all these sketches here that you've done with
Mhm.
in Manila, I noticed, right, in
Yeah.
Puipo, Manila. Are these done during a trip as well?
Not at all. Bearing in mind, this happened in the midst of production, so I could not escape. So what I could do is study whatever materials that's around me, whether online or books, or I just took a break and just relax. Okay, I need to
I'm looking at this,
start thinking.
right, because I'm
Yeah.
looking at these illustrations and the textures are just, so rich and so mesmerizing. I feel like there's no way that you could just draw it offhand and that you have to be observing something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you
If
was
I
like,
were to take this in the market myself with all the people moving around me, I would not get my lines so clean, bearing in mind. Compared to you saw previously my travel sketches, it was a
right,
lot messier.
okay,
So anything neat you see is probably when I'm settled down on a
right,
table.
right, okay, okay.
Yeah. And you can see from my drawings, it's very relaxed. I'm at my elements. Nothing is distracting me. And yeah, I just draw what came to my mind at that point of time. I just thought, I want to draw this, let's do it. I want to do that, let's do it. So here's where I am now as an artist. I try to always draw and upgrade my skill set. And I'm, again, never satisfied. So I'll just keep on pushing and pushing until I find where
I
I
think
need to
no
be. And it's
artist.
usually, Eugene, is other artists. I don't want to be myself. I like what other people do. I'm never satisfied.
Yeah, I think it's a thing with every artist that you're never satisfied with your own artwork. I mean, if we look at even people like masters like Miyazaki, he never watches his old films because he knows he's never satisfied with it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's the thing
yeah.
that drives us to get to be better. Yeah,
We are our worst critics.
yeah.
Even I don't want to see what I produce because I know I'm going to have a field of notes ready to tell them to fix it.
Claire, do you want to
So
jump into the conversation?
Yeah, hi Sandra, Claire here. I just wondering when you're drawing the animals and all that, do you have reference material? Did you like take pictures from some other?
no, like for example, the fox you see at the bottom right, that
Yeah.
was all from memory,
Oh,
and or the dog at the far left bottom, and my own dog mascot at the top left. Those are all from memory. It's what I like to draw.
how
I've
about
been
this?
doodling my whole life.
How about this cute little cat here in the top right with the
The
big eyes?
I I think I drew it from without reference.
Oh,
Only when I start coloring that I look for reference. How would the lighting or shading be or
hmm.
the
But
font?
I guess
But
it's
it's
because
just
you've been
yeah,
doing
it's a
it for your
doodle.
whole life already, right? you've been doing it for so long, you've been drawing,
Yeah, exactly.
it becomes intuitive.
So
Yeah.
you've been observing like creatures and everything for the longest time, right? That's why you can.
I started out drawing animals since I was in kindergarten. I mean, animals was my
Oh,
passion.
I
So
see.
yeah,
Wow, so
from
cute.
one little hobby of drawing one cat, it went on to a series of cats, which I
Ah,
thought
so
a lot
cute.
of people have cats. Why don't I just draw their cats? And here's one
I love
example.
cats. I saw this
This is this is
Sandra,
Look
you
at
can
the
get
fluffy thing. Oh
Jen
my
Chan.
goodness.
of these. I love this so
You
much.
cat person? Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Yeah, I have a cat. Her name is Kamiko Tsukiji. Don't ask me why I
Wow.
named her that.
Wow.
I had to give her a surname because Tsukiji being the Tsukiji fish market. Kamiko Kame for longevity, life. And yeah, this picture you see here was someone's actual cat. His name is Jen Chan, supposed to be an Instagram star, and that artwork found its way to the owner, thanks to my twin. Yeah, so yeah, all of these you see here are mostly real cats.
Just like Maru, the Japanese cat. The Maru, the petty
Yeah,
Maru cat.
yeah, and
So we actually have like, I mean, I don't know if it's early for questions now.
mhm,
You
mhm.
can just jump in one before we
Yeah,
continue
yeah,
on with the slides. I think
yeah.
it's a question that another audience member has about style, and I personally have
Mhm.
this question as well. 'Cause I mean, I've known Sandra. We go back like, I think I've known you since we were like teens. We were
Yeah, you
12
were
and you were
playing in
like,
my garden.
I was playing in your garden. We were like, I was 12 and you were 13 or
Yeah.
14.
Oh,
You
I
know,
don't know my
I
age.
let's not reveal our age. I feel that and I noticed when you were young, when you were much younger, your styles were more like Disney-esque, and it has evolved along the way. And I recently worked on a production with you, of which
Hmm.
you shall not mention. But
Yeah.
I found that the style was very different, and when I tried to emulate that style, it was really, really therapeutic. So the question is, when do you know to shift, and how do you adapt different styles? Like when do you know what to use? Um,
That comes from being trained as a 2D animator because we are always trained to be flexible in our style. That's the beauty of it because you cannot stick to one style unless that's your bread and butter.
right.
But working in this industry, we have to learn to adapt our style to draw other people's projects. That's why when given the task to try out new things, it wasn't as hard for me. All I need to do was take the time to sit down and study them and research and then just try and find what makes that look like that
Yeah.
and then try and work from there. So
Which is what
yeah.
I found that I had to do with yours, and I found your style, the current style that you had for that production. It was really very comforting. It was a lot softer, and it was a lot more different. But would you say you have a personal style that you use for your own work, like for your own travel sketching, or
Mm,
that adapts as well?
I think my style will always look like something like you said, very Disney-esque. That is what people know me for.
Mm, mm.
But I tend to start veering towards the beady eyes now when
Yeah,
working on my personal comics like this one
yeah.
here.
Mm, mm.
So
The makan one.
that one was something I could do um, fast and not waste too much time, and I still find it quite charming.
It has its own charms. Yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, just to I remember some lecturer back in college. She told me beady eyes will not get anywhere, so don't bother with the style.
So
So
wrong.
no, but look at what
The
came out,
people that made
Adventure
Snoopy.
Time. Yeah, they want because at that time Disney was the big name, so everyone was looking towards that. So I can understand, but now that we are where we are now with the social media and everything, and there's so many styles out there that can work as long as you have a good story to tell.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Sandra, do you want to get to the Once Upon a
Mhm.
Time part?
Yeah,
Or do you
yeah.
want to?
So we were
Yep.
touching on that one for the beady
Mm.
eyes. Sorry about that. Just a brief one. That one just now was a brochure I also contributed for
And
the
the
National
romping.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this one. So I would always love to um, participate in anything that was ecological or environmentally friendly. So anything that touches on the topic of environment and preservation, I would always love to participate and contribute artworks for. And then moving on next would be also what we're seeing now, sorry to say, we're looking into some of the publications that came out in between my day jobs. This one, my sister told me about a competition called the Feiku Awards. So they had a slot that I could tell stories by comics. So, and the topic was food. So I immediately jumped on it and said, okay, I love to draw and tell stories with food in mind. So, and it's only 4 pages. So why not just jump into it and see where it goes? So thankfully, my article was chosen for publication, even though I didn't win anything, but this was good enough for me as a training ground to hone in on my skill set as a storyteller via graphic novels or comics. And I did this very fast. I just sketched on paper with pencil and just watercolored directly on it and inked.
So,
And
Sandra,
yeah.
just to pick your brain a bit, I'm very
Mhm.
amused with the layout work, and I'm always wanting to do something like that, but could never get
Yeah.
it. But you plan your text and
Mm,
your visuals first.
mm,
Do you
mm.
plan out the spacing first? Yes.
Oh, layout is my bane.
Oh,
It's all our bane. And I was like, I could never get the layout. And it looks messy still, you know, and I just needed, okay, I need this space for words. How can I fit it here? I would just draw a box and say, can I fit all the words I want to say in here before and I would like to put an image here. It's everywhere, but I still know that a proper page would consist of maybe 3 or 4 panels. At least I knew that. And then maybe I can divide it into two, you
Okay.
know? Yeah. So just simple thing like that. And I try to keep it as simple and basic as I can without look at this last page here, the fourth one, all jumbled up. I want to put in as much food as I can fit into one page without making it look too cluttered.
Sandra, are you from Penang?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't born in Penang, but my roots are there. My family,
obsession with food is a Penang thing. Yeah. All right.
yeah. Um, you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, you can't take the food out of us. It's in our genes somewhere. So moving on from there, I discovered that dang, I love to draw food. I need to make a book just dedicated on food. And how about drawing food, what I ate and experienced or what I aspire to cook in future. So
Oh, wow.
here's some of the samples. And this is recipes from France. And the one on the left is choucroute, something we ate at home here, which is cultural experiences and what some things I like to share with my readers. And and then I got to taste new recipes, choucroute, tartiflette, and confit de canard, everything. So yeah, I found all this is beautiful, and this is something I would spend money on. Just buying food books, stickers, postcards, anything. If there's food in there, I'll just take my money. And one is never enough. I would want to do my own. So here's a little snippet of what I am currently tinkering with. It's trying to get my Inktober sketches published, and I find that I'm never satisfied with just one page. Do I want to break down the ingredients? So you can see here my thought process. It still looks a mishmash of elements that don't go together. So I'm still toying with the idea of how can I improve on it. This is just a rough layout and breakdowns. Maybe if I don't use some of the artworks for the book, maybe I can use it for merchandise later and so forth. And of course, living in a foreign country now, you tend to crave, for the things back home. And this is just pure torture for me when I work on it.
Have you cooked anything Malaysian there since you've moved there?
Oh, of course, of course. You know, things I take for granted. I
Yeah.
learned to do the mee goreng. I
Oh,
even last year satiated my craving for Maggie mee. It was my very last packet.
oh my God. Yeah, I remember you told
To
us
eat it.
about that.
Yeah. And uh, I did kaya, I did gandum. I
Wow. So you had pandan leaves all ice beku and frozen.
found it in a small Asian market and I just
Oh,
bam, I don't care how much it costs. I'm gonna
right,
get it.
right.
Oh
So
my
precious,
gosh.
right?
I tell you,
To
a
find street
packet
find.
of a packet of century eggs
Yeah.
is what would cost here is like €5, so
Oh my,
$25, 25
25
ringgit there.
ringgit.
Yeah. But I don't care. I was craving for it so badly. So yeah, and moving on. Sorry, Joe. We are now moving on to new projects, which is how before this I got to where I am now. I've been doing collaborations with the French embassy as well because I studied in Alliance Française. So word got out that I was an artist. So they approached me to see if I can contribute artworks for some of their projects they have in mind. So I did on the recent mascot, Monsieur Rimau, as the mascot for the French embassy, and he's doing full-time job in Instagram right now for the embassy and
What
Alliance
is he
Française.
called? Monsieur Rimau.
Yeah, they asked the audience to give him a name, and Monsieur Rimau got the most votes. So now Monsieur Rimau.
It's perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a feeling a cat theme would work well for Malaysia. So, and this is also a game that came out recently. It's just to educate people, play a game with French words, and then the prizes are great. You can get free tuition, free lessons, and you can even win a trip to France and things like that. It's just a way to get people interested in the French language. And then, yes, moving on. This is a personal project of mine that I did with Giggle Garage. It's called Salad Bunnies. And this was what garnered attention for us to be invited to NSC last year. That's why I took the opportunity to make the big decision to move here because all the events are here. The energy is here. So unfortunately, COVID hit. So everything turned out to have it online. But still, we keep trudging on. And this is some of the works that I'm currently helping my husband with, and in collaboration with the theme of environment awareness. We wanted to bring his gardening theme to the schools. And this is something happening now in France, just a heads up. The French government want to start re-educating students how to grow green and bring it to the table in their school cafeterias. And this is an agenda they have right now that's going very strong. That's why we want to be a part of it, teaching kids how to take care of the environment, grow your own veg, and eat a healthier, well-balanced diet while you're at it. So you know where your food sourced from the ground up. And we wanted to do some manuals and just some of these materials I worked on. It was a pleasure. And yeah, we're still doing good on time, yeah, Jill. So
We are like really tight on Q&A,
yeah, I'm
but
sorry.
I
Okay,
think we've answered some, so that's not too bad.
yeah. So
So let's
in my France, yeah. What can I say? The artworks, the countryside, the history, everything influences my palette and making me hunger for more. The books, the literature available, the art that is within reach. This one was, sorry, that image was very lucky because it was not in the museum, it was in a hotel. And just so happened all the masterpieces were there on display, and
Wow.
me and my husband were the only ones there at that time. So we had private exhibition of all these masters. From you can see Liechtenstein there. We had a bit of Monet
So these are
and a
what was?
Chagall. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. This is in the basement in the hotel. It's not even in the museum. They were borrowed for this event, the
Oh,
festival. So I just happened to see it on display, like, let's go. And it was free. So yeah, and all the
oh,
food. Yeah.
Sandra, what are you
What
doing?
can I say about the food again? And just this is a nice take on some of the things you'll see when you get here. I live in a small village, by the way, population 150 maximum. So everyone knows everyone here. This is our small town hall.
Mm.
And this is my backyard, by the way, and the surroundings. The town hall is just 10 minutes walk from my house. That's why I love it, living here. You don't need a car to get to where you need to go.
Mm.
And these are the things I see. Oh, that's my neighbors right there, the little Charolais cattle.
Mm.
They're surrounded by them. And yeah, I do
Wow.
paintings and drawings of the countryside and what I see. There's still so much to draw in so little time. And what I do aim from this experience is to come up with a graphic novel of my experiences and travels, and hopefully provide some do's and don'ts info to Malaysian tourists before they come, so you don't get a bad experience when you come here, because there's so much cultural differences that we need to know before we come. And a lot of it took me by surprise that did not have a training manual to begin with. I wish I had this info before I came, but now I'm going to do it for the rest. So yeah, these are experiences last year that I tried to draft out, and you can see my progression from just sketches to now digital format.
Mm.
And just so people know what I do in the day in the life, I start off day at my studio. Firstly, I make breakfast for my husband. Sometimes it'd be a fusion. You can see cup noodles. I try to find whatever cup noodles there is there, and oh man, there's just not enough. And eating it with French pastries.
Oh, your
And
the bird,
sorry,
the little
and
bird that
yeah,
you.
if time permits, I go for a morning walk, try to exercise. And one of the most memorable experiences I had was rescuing two little birds, lilacs called alouette. And thankfully, one made it to adult. And up to this day, I'm still griping, why hasn't it come back to visit me? And I try to draw those instances of my experiences. And then moving on to the next one. Yeah, my husband decided on a chicken project. So in between my day job now, I also help look after his chickens. And also there's the garden to attend to sometimes. And before starting my day's job, I would try to get in some French lessons every day. Try not to do it without fail, because now that I'm here full time, I really need to pick up on my French. And there's no more excuse. I really need to work hard at it. So once I'm done with that, I would start my day work and see through my emails, check out the work for the day, go through the Zoom calls. Yeah, you can see that's just a little glimpse of the amount of work needed for the day job. This is where I'm talking to you now, my studio. It's on the loft above the house. Small little corner surrounded by books and rubbish. Yeah. The artist studio is never clean. So
Yeah,
and
you try to keep it clean, but it never gets clean.
yeah. So after that, thankfully my mother-in-law will handle lunch. So once
Oh wow.
I'm done for the day, we go down and enjoy a meal cooked by her. And I always look forward to something new if it's a special day, like Sunday meals or something. And sometimes I help my husband take the dog for a walk before going back to work. Sometimes, it's been a long week of work or a long month. My head's not screwed on sometimes. So I try to capture those instances. And moving on to the next image. Yeah, this is a snippet of our garden on a good day. So it's seasonal as well, which is something I need to get used to, what I can grow per season and what I can harvest and adapt the menu accordingly. So if time permits, I would go out to the garden, harvest what I need, and then go to the kitchen and try and cook up something for the family and make time for them. Yeah, you will see a fusion of Malaysian and French cuisine now in my
What's
repertoire.
that?
But yeah, you can see a
What am
lot
I
of
looking at, Sandra?
which one?
The one on the
The
right.
best.
So I see pate with fish ball.
Oh, okay. This one is a French, totally French
Oh, okay.
bistro dish. It's
Right.
called assiette du coulis,
All right.
a plate of taste, uh, preferably raw salad. So I would make salmon
No.
and I would make a volet with fillings on, or a fostini with rillettes, which is a mincemeat of sorts. And I will adapt. And this is something they like to eat on a hot day. Mhm. Like summer meal is my take. It's not following any recipe. And on top of those stuff you see just now, I still do give online classes to some students. And I don't do it as a general rule for a job that I need, but it's more like a favor to friends of a friend who ask for help with their children. But of course, I actually stopped it for a season because I thought I needed time to do on my own personal stuff. But knowing that this is COVID season we're in, every little bit helps for parents and children stuck at home. So any opportunity to give a sense of normalcy to the students, I would jump in and help out with for the parents especially. And knowing the kids just needed something, a normal activities to take their mind away from the worries outside. So yeah, I love interacting with the kids, and my teaching materials are not textbook per se. It's I adapt my teaching according to the students' needs and age and their skills, level of skill set. So they're more like my friends online doing a sketch jam rather than a proper teaching session.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then moving on, yeah, so yeah, this is some of the work I would do at night before calling it a day. Try and make time for personal stuff. If not, my day job would move into the night job. And just so everyone know, it's not all bed of roses for me. While I was here, I broke my hand, which I did not want to announce online. I I broke it midway last year, and I did not take leave from that. I decided to just do the work, even with one hand available only. I did my day job. I did everything that I needed to do with just one hand. You can see, it's like it feels. It was still a good experience. I have stories to draw on that in my one chapter for my comic, how it felt like, and I even make time
Oh,
to paint a gift for my doctor and his surgeons and colleagues. And you know it's COVID, everyone wears masks, so I cannot see
God.
their faces most of the time, but they appreciated it. Yeah, yeah, and any opportunity I have, I would do a gift for them. And yeah, I think that's it. Where I am now, Joe, a Malaysian artist abroad, I want to see if this will go anywhere. This is very new. I've just started it recently just to get the momentum rolling. And yeah, you can get hopefully as regular an update as I can provide of what goes on in my life here. Sometimes I would post drawings, sometimes I would post photos or videos of my experiences here. And people can feel free to just drop me a line. I would do my best to answer anything or anything you're curious about. You can see I
Century
needed my, I needed my century eggs and cute dumplings, whatever.
for 80 euros.
Yeah, 480 euro. My gosh. I should if I ever get to come back to Malaysia soon, I'm gonna hit the food stall focus on.
And this what we're looking at is the Facebook page, right, Sandra? That we're
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So these are
There's Facebook
platforms.
and Instagram
Okay.
updates,
All right.
but I want to try and get the traffic to go to that website. So I know there's enough interest for me to pursue this line where I'm
Oh,
trying to aim at.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, if there's enough interest. And just so you know from my twin what happened to her when we grew up drawing together, this is where she's at now. She's in New York working for HBO. So she went on the digital route whereas I went on cartoons and the traditional route. And just to let people know that we have a cousin who is also the same age as us. She grew up with the same things we did because we used to play together as kids and loving the same interests. She also branched out to another route, which was more on puppetry and Jim Henson stuff. So
Oh,
she got the opportunity to work on stuff like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter. So and we're in the same age, so it's like a clone of three of us branching into three different industries. So it was nice to see that we're covering all bases while working in this and having the same interests and so forth with the same childhood. Yeah. So I mean, if people are interested, we can drop where you can find them. And yeah,
Sandra, do you mind taking some questions now?
yeah, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's
Are we?
about it for
Oh,
my
right,
talk.
right, right.
Merci beaucoup, Yuta, for having me here. And yes,
Okay.
I'm please do feel free
We
to yeah.
one who is coming from a student, I guess. Yeah, from
Uh-huh.
Danny Day, he's a student of ours. So I think
Mhm.
we'll just pick and choose some of these questions. Number one is, what is the most important quality for a person who wants to excel in the animation industry? And what are your advice to fresh grads who are planning to enter this industry?
I would say take time to do your homework first. You need to have a certain level of drawing skill before coming into animation. It helps because you can really start, get the ball rolling for you once you get into the semester. But if you were to start without having an inkling of what needs to be done, then you're in for a very hard task ahead because, and it's not an easy job, animation. I think it's one of the hardest in terms of the amount of work needed, and it's going to be tedious if you're doing animating frame by frame. You need to know, you have the sense of timing, you need to be observant of things around you. You need a little bit of everything, a little knowledge in every field just to do this kind of work. You need to make the right decisions and right calls in such a short amount of time and under pressure constantly. Yeah. So the most important thing is for me, before I started into animation, I took 6 months off in between my class just to prepare myself for the work ahead, knowing that not only am I going to be drawing nonstop, but there's also the assignments that you're going to be assigned, presentations, knowing you need to set up your workstation well, you need to know the software before you join, because now there's so many softwares involved. Depending on the school you go to, you need to know those things before joining,
Right.
not just getting your drawing skills up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another question from Kai Yang Yu. And I think there's another question that relates to this about when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling, your mood ain't that great, feeling stressed while you're doing your work. How do you usually deal with this feeling, or do you channel them into your artwork? Are there moments where you actually channel this into your artwork? Does that happen?
Mm. Um, yeah, that being artists, we're all emotional and we all have our bad days, But I find I handle it. Here's a tip I would put on my sound bites, and I would play in instances of documentaries or things that will inspire me and tell me that it's not so bad where you are. You just need to just take a break, sit back, and And for me, I would multitask to keep my mind away from one stress to move on to something, so I distract. I'm never in that zone where I'm despondent or giving up or feeling so bad. I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. But a lot of things inspire me. So I would see people who are in a more vulnerable or more intense situation, and I would find they're they're taking this very positive. What about me? You know? So I would that's how I pick myself up
Right.
through influences I would absorb and
Right.
either distract or absorb and move on.
It's more like a conversion of energy and mood, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I see this now. This question coming from Sufi Hing and Kai Yang Yu again. Like
Mhm.
there's a few similar questions they're asking about, like what do you do or what do you practice when you run out of ideas? And looking at the plethora of sketches that you have, is it possible for Sandra Khoo to even run out of ideas? So yeah,
No.
yeah. How do you deal
No,
with
I
running
never
out of
run out of ideas.
Yeah.
If I hit a brick wall,
Uh,
then I just go. Thankfully, where I am now, I always surround myself with materials that inspire me or would trigger something. So if I hit a brick wall somewhere and get stuck, I just move on to something else before returning to it with a new, fresh mind,
right.
fresh perspective on things. You usually take a day or two. I'm finding this formula now. If you're stuck somewhere, just take a back seat and
Do
get
something
get
else.
into other things that may inspire or let your body reset or your mind reset, and then just come back.
And when you say do something else, I'm quite sure it doesn't mean flipping through the phone or playing a game, right? It means
No,
gardening, you know, what does
because
that mean for you?
I'm a sponge, I need to gravitate to a lot of things. I'm not just in animation. I'm in, let's say, now I'm farming, language, cooking. I love geography. I love history. I love everything. Science. I would just gravitate. There's just too many things.
Yeah. All right, cool. I
Yeah.
think that's all that we have. I wish I could take more questions and we can get
Eugene, I think we can afford to run long a bit
because
because this is the
we are,
last one to
yeah,
close the entire event.
Ah,
And
yeah,
I
you're the
think the
last.
audience would like to hear a little bit more from Sandra as well. So just field a few more questions. Maybe we'll let
Okay,
it run to
okay.
another 15
mhm.
minutes. Is that
Sure.
all
Oh
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even if the questions are not addressed, I mean, I'm okay. I can answer them on the side, and then we'll get back to the person who asked it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you guys got the
I'm willing to do that. Yeah,
Or can
because
we also
thank you all
post?
for taking the time to even
Yeah.
come to this talk. And to
No,
be
we
honest,
can.
when I talked to Jill, I was like, why do people want to know what I do? What do I do? I don't even have a
no.
clue what I do.
I've copied all the questions. I mean, if
Okay.
you have time, then you can address them. We can post it in our Facebook. I think that would
Oh
be great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Claire,
But
yeah.
Eugene can continue with a few more
we
questions.
continue.
Yeah. Just up to 5:15. Let's do until 5:15,
Okay,
all right?
all right. So, okay, there's some that pertains to your full-time gig, I think, and they were asking, how long does a project usually take? I think that's a question a lot of students have when you're working on a project. How long does it take from start to end in your experience?
If it's okay, animation related in the studio, animation can take between 1 or 3 years, give or take, depending on the demand.
Right.
And they tend to most of the time they tend to just run for a year and a half. That would be the gauge for the timeline.
Mhm.
But if you're asking me about my personal stuff, there is no ending.
Yeah.
It will keep on going to eternity.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And for you, for yourself, I mean, we all kind of have our own challenges. What this is coming from Tan Qian Ni. What is your own challenge in creating an artwork? What are the challenges that you face in creating any of your artwork? What's the one thing other than layout, which is your brain?
No, I mean what is more scary than to have a blank canvas. That
Oh,
would be the challenge. What do I want to put? I got so many things I don't know. And if you're relying on yourself to tell you what needs to be on that page, that is the most daunting and challenging,
right.
not knowing what you want to put. And for me, I think one thing you guys can gauge is I have a lot of self-doubt and low self-esteem. So my biggest challenge is myself, basically. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Let's see. We have I have one which is what do you do to keep your knowledge of latest trends in animation up to date?
Um, I I rely on what I can get online. I would just surf, but
Right.
the best one would be talking to friends basically and talking to my students and people what is going on because I can only see so much.
Right.
What are other people seeing that I don't see and I need to be in the know. So
Right.
I'm always online trying to keep in touch,
Mm.
even though I'm somewhere in the remote reach corner of France. But I don't log out. I'm here 24/7
Right.
weekends trying to get as much things even when going out I would see and yeah, just absorb everything and
And
try to keep
um,
up to date.
right. And there's a question here also that asks, what is which artist that you are current that you would recommend people to kind of check out? Like, who are your influences now, and that you have taken an interest to,
Oh,
recently?
there is I don't know if I'm saying his name right. It's Dutch. It's like Walter Manet. I can type it in later and put it in
Okay,
Facebook. And
Ken.
there's a lot of artists here that I love. Claire Wendling, Pierre Larry, Juanyo Guanedo. A lot of artists that is not the materials are not readily available in Malaysia, but you can find them online depending on who your interests are. If you like Japanese artists, for example, I love Koji Morimoto's work since the get-go when I saw it from beginning. And yeah, there's just too many to name, and it's not fair that I miss them out. But if I could have a list, I would name them.
Okay. Let's see. I find that some of these questions kind of like things that we have addressed. Okay, this is one which I think is quite crucial. What are your social media accounts that we can follow? Other
Ah.
than the Facebook one, do you have?
Uh, I have Instagram.
Right.
I think it's under SK270, if
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
mistaken.
Right.
Yeah,
So you guys can search that up.
we can provide that. Can I type it in the chat
Yeah,
box?
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think my Insta is. I think so. 270. Let me just get the links for you right now. While you can keep on talking while I drop the
Okay.
links.
All right, let's have a look at other questions. Claire and Joanne, if you want to jump in on anything.
Yeah, Eugene, one of the questions I find is
Yeah.
something lots of people ask.
Hmm.
If one does not have confidence in creativity,
Hmm.
can he or she enter the creative industry?
Ah,
Yeah.
if you have
So if one does not have
Um,
confidence,
no confidence like sunshine, so can you enter the animation industry? Hmm.
Hello. I'm the essence of no confidence. I need people to push me and just jab me. To be honest with everyone, I didn't want to come here. Edie had to kick me out of the studio and say, Sandra, just try it. You never know. And I
Oh.
was bawling my eyes. I don't want to leave Malaysia. Don't make me go. And even to come to this industry, personally, I grew up as a sick child. I was asthmatic and bronchitis, so art was one of my outlets, how I can express myself and engage with people and still find a purpose in life. So coming into animation, when I saw the opportunity, I just said, what else can I do if not draw? But if you don't have a creative streak, I say never, because you could be a 40-year-old person like me just starting out without any background in art. And I've seen people do wonders in such a short span of time if you have the drive.
Yeah, because I've been teaching creative arts for the longest time. People always have this funny idea they have to be like this a Picasso or
You
a
don't
Da
have to be
Vinci,
a protege, or you don't
in
have to
order
be a
to be
genius.
in order to be in this line, but it's not true. If you love it, you
No.
draw it, and you have your own style. Sometimes
Uh-huh.
it looks naive,
Yeah.
childlike, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Yeah.
if you like it, just do it.
Simplest form can
Most
be
important
beautiful.
thing, I think Sandra would agree, and all of us here, is passion. If you like it, nobody can stop you from doing it.
Yep.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
can tell you a quick story. I heard a 40-year-old guy who never drew in his life. He just started a daily blog just to draw 1 page a day, and he's drawing like a pro now. And he was 40 years old without any background. He just had the drive to just regularly practice on a day-to-day basis. Mhm.
We have a question here. How I think that's quite that a lot of people are quite puzzled because you have moved out of Malaysia. How is it working? Having a long distance working relationship. Are there advantages, disadvantages? What are you feeling right now? I mean, it's something that I guess we are all kind of having. We are kind of having our own individual long distance, but I think for yours it's much more further. So how is it like for you?
You mean in
with
what
with your
context? Is it
with your
between
gig with
my
Giggle
studio?
Garage right now?
Doesn't feel any different, to be honest,
Mm,
because um, we're for us in this line, we're used to working via online,
mm,
and the only thing I would say is I miss the interaction,
yeah,
physical interaction. But being again, I'm a hermit. I love this situation that I wish it could be like this for a longer duration. To be honest, I'm not trying to jinx it, but it works so well for me. It's like a holiday for me in the
right,
park. Even long distance, as long as I have the connection, the Wi-Fi and everything, it
right.
feels like any normal day.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
I guess you had clients like foreign clients before, and you
Mhm.
were always working with them remotely, like even with Supernova and stuff like that. So I guess
Mhm.
it was not something that I guess for us in the animation industry had a lot to adapt with. It wasn't like something completely new that we have to grapple with. Yeah.
Ah,
Mm,
it was projects like that. You may be daunted because it's new material and stuff and working with a foreign company, but again, I was fortunate enough to work on materials that I have a background in. For example, Space Nova. I'm a Trekkie, so space travel, all that is in my zone. So I'm very comfortable talking about it, trying to get the facts right, what is missing, and
right.
adding flavors to it. So that's why I say when you come into, if you're thinking of coming into the animation industry, know a bit of everything because it will definitely help you in any project you work in the long run.
Yeah.
Like for example, working with Saladin, I love history. So research and development was no problem. I could read beyond that and try and
Right.
get it right. Yeah.
Correct. And I think we had a conversation once when I visited your studio. It was so important for even an animator to know about history of arts because you will have clients pulling references from artworks from
Yeah,
the Renaissance era, and
exactly.
if you don't know, like, well, what is this dude talking about? I'm all about animation. I don't know
Exactly.
and yeah,
Yeah, you I would say Joe and Claire know this very well because I came
they
from
they
Yep.
they,
there.
they taught us
Yep.
history of art, and we could
Yeah,
we
and
Just
it's
to
one of
give
my
your
favorite
background,
classes.
just to give your
Sorry?
background information, Sandra and Eugene used to be our students.
Yeah,
History of art, yeah. Yeah, so you used to
no.
have quite a few students who really hate history of art, the word history.
Oh, every
But
semester.
but these
Every
two, they
semester.
love history of art, so they are our favorite students.
yeah.
No, no, we don't have
No,
favorites, yeah, but they're
no.
amazing students.
I will say it helps you that you know everything because again, like we talked about, when we're working with different people from different countries,
Mm.
they feel good when you know their stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when they pull out references from their country, you can corroborate and say, yeah, I know this. And they feel like they trust you. We're on the same page.
Correct. Correct. I
Yeah.
think that's so important.
Yeah.
Here's okay. Probably we'll wrap this up with two
Last question.
last questions. Okay.
Last.
So,
Yep.
do you share your ideas or creations to people around you, and I guess actively seek their opinions or their thoughts on how to improve your drawing? Do you do that, or did you once do that?
Yeah, as long as it's not private and confidential material, if it's my own stuff, I would always want other people's opinions. Again, I'm not. It's not about pride or about ego or anything. It's because I know there's always a better way, and it helps having a different perspective from an outsider's view.
Yeah.
And working in this line, you need to not be very personal and be sensitive of your own stuff. Like you cannot change it, it's mine. No. What I learned was the most single important value is learning to take comments and criticism and feedback. And it only helps to make things better. It's never malicious or anything to
Yeah.
downgrade your work. It's to
Right.
make things better. People only want it to be better. And if you have their perspective, it counts. You
Correct.
could always end up with something better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even when I was working with you on the recent project, I mean, when we were thrashing out ideas, I found it such a rewarding experience because I came out learning so much more when I got ideas from you, from Edie,
Yeah.
and the team, and
Yeah,
I
we
found that the most enriching experience ever. And like, oh,
yeah.
but I missed that. It only lasted for 2 months.
Yeah. And people have different backgrounds and experience, and you never know when the idea will hit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's about it. Oh, I wish we could spend more time talking with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have to wrap up. So really sorry to be the party
No,
pooper.
thank you, everyone.
But
I'm
Sandra, thank you so much for coming here, sharing with us. Welcome home, although it's via Zoom. Yeah. Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I will try and come back. My next vaccination is next week, so I hope that
Uh,
means one step closer to being able to travel back to Malaysia.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
why did?
hopefully. I mean,
Yeah,
looking at our numbers now, it's quite scary. So,
you don't know what's going on there. Tell me, what is going on?
I have
we
no idea.
don't know.
We none of
All
us
I can is I don't want it to be another case of Malaysia Boleh in this context.
we
Oh,
look
no.
only long now.
You live with a whole 100 in the village. We have a whole 100 in just the apartment or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, you didn't know, but I left Malaysia just 2 weeks prior to the pandemic hitting hard. So when
Yeah.
I left Malaysia, everything was still normal.
Yeah.
Our government was still the same. We still had none.
Oh,
No,
okay.
that's when the Prime Minister Mahathir just came on board before he did what he did. So everything was still normal. So I'm very worried how Malaysia will change when I come back.
We'll still be here. We won't change. We'll still
Yeah, we'll still be
Yeah.
here. And there's
Yeah.
always Zoom, right?
Yeah, as
Okay.
long as there's also Maggie Mee and Milo.
True, true.
Malaysia too.
All right, then I think we better wrap up and let everyone be able to go home on a very
Oh,
nice note.
no,
Uh,
I just want to
so-
thank everyone for coming here and giving the time and being patient with me. Yeah.
oh, we would love to be
It's a
even more
pleasure.
patient for
Mm,
hours yet, but we can't. So yeah,
Yeah.
some of the people here have been with us since 9:30 and some
Yeah.
even from day one. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to join earlier because of the time zone difference. I was still
Mm.
asleep when you guys started.
3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sandra.
I'll try and get
Thank
to
you,
your
Sandra.
words.
Okay.
Questions.
Thanks, Sandra. Nice to see you again.